Hey everybody, thanks for taking the time to download this template. This project is called Carbonite Shared. It has one component here called Freezer, and it has a little folder here with a few pieces of footage you need to make this thing work. So let's do a little rundown. Right at the top here, I have a text layer using the Arial bold font, which is also included in that zip file in case you somehow don't have it. But right on the top is this text layer that you're welcome to edit and change to whatever you want. Anything, whatever. So that's right on the very top, very easy to edit. You can change that to whatever suits your particular comp. Then, if you look, there's a whole bunch of locked layers, and they all represent basically the foreground of this composition. So I divided this up a little bit differently from the walkthrough that I did when I was doing it myself, but I think that that'll help this template work really easily. So these top two layers are the few pieces of the background that actually overlap this window, including this door handle, and then you've also got the footage being masked out. So you have a nice hole here to put anything behind. And in addition to that is layer number 6, which is the reflection. I've already baked that together, so it's just one layer that you can change the opacity up and down from to suit whatever you end up putting there inside the freezer. So I'll unsolo those for a second and go through some of my other stuff. We've got the Element 3D layer with Han Solo in it. That 3D file is also included. But one thing that might happen when you come in here is you might need to relink some footage. So in After Effects, it's quite easy to replace the footage that's missing. So if they're unlinked, please link them to whatever folder you downloaded these 3 pieces of footage to. And then Element 3D is the other thing that might be unlinked to some other stuff. So to relink files there if they are missing, if this comes in as kind of just a blank nothing, go to Element, go to your scene setup, click on this model, which will be red and say missing. You can say replace model. I actually think that Element has a dialog that'll do this automatically, that'll say try to relink missing files, and you can just direct them to this Han 02 C4D 3D piece. And if the dialog doesn't come up, you can manually do it just like this. Same thing for these textures. I've only added a texture to the diffuse pattern here, and you can go in here, say load from file, and link them texture 1 to texture 1, texture 0 to texture 0, and that should bring in everything nicely for you. So once you've got all that, you've got this beautiful 3D Han, and he'll appear in here. And right in the middle we have this layer 9, which is an adjustment layer, you'll see. And right now I have some brightness and contrast stuff in there and a color matcher setting in there. If you don't have this plugin, no big deal, you can disable it or whatever. The brightness and contrast I use to try to make things look a little bit better, so that's what that layer is all about. This layer 10 is the null that all of the Element 3D stuff is located, is affixed to, so if you move that back and forth, it'll move your 3D model. Right now you'll notice that there are a few keys on that already, and those are basically to accommodate for some drift that happened with the 3D track. It just made it look a little bit better to me. So you can leave them in place if you want, but if you run into any troubles with a little bit of perspective, it may be coming from this, but nothing too hard to work through. Below that, I also added these 3 layers called Metal Sheet, and I'll solo those for a second. That is just this little teeny box made up of this metal texture. So if you happen to play straight through this with all the foreground layers on, it'll look like a nice empty box with a reflection in front of it. And this empty box is a great way for you to bring in any other 2D layer you have in case you would like to. So for example, if you want to create any new layer and turn it 3D, place them down here under all these foreground layers, all the layers that are locked, and that will place it behind the reflection and behind all this other stuff. And if you happen to have transparency on it, pretend it's this thing of goo, the goo will appear to float in this kind of otherwise empty cabinet. So hopefully that's a fun picture of your friend in a funny pose, or a frozen cat, or something like that. Whatever you want to put in there, it'll put right in the middle. Also, if you're like me and really into 3D stuff, you can go to this E3D Han layer, go to Element in its scene setup, and you can put any other 3D object you want in this same space. So if you haven't, you should definitely download the Star Pack from videocopilot.net. It's a bunch of cool Star Wars models that are awesome to use. And kind of funny story, this pack came out the week after I had finished rigging an expensive 3D model of BB-8 and R2-D2 and even an X-Wing for a spot that I was doing with Lucasfilm at the time. I rigged them all to work in Element 3D, and now even more optimized versions are available for free to everyone. So that's super. And but anyway, you can grab any of these models, and I'll put them in right here. Let's scale them down. Turn off these other pieces and say OK. And now you've got whatever 3D object you like right here tracking with the scene. So that'll work with basically anything you bring in. You may want to play with the lighting a little bit, because I was just using the default for that Han because he was a photogrammetry model, which means the lighting was baked in. I didn't need to do much with it. But if you're bringing in your own 3D element, please double check your render settings and the like, just to make sure that you're getting the best output. But anyway, that pretty much sums this up. You can do a whole lot with this template, as long as it involves labeling a freezer section item and putting something within that freezer. But sky's the limit. But in any case, enjoy that, have fun with it, and I will see you guys all later. Thanks so much. Bye.